Federal Drug Enforcement Administration says a week-long cartel crackdown led to nearly 200 arrests just in New England. The DEA says they were all members of the Sinaloa Cartel, the largest drug cartel in the world.
171 cartel member arrests. These are high-level arrests, not low-level retail distribution.
The DEA has just delivered one of the biggest blows to the Sinaloa Cartel that New England has ever seen. In a single week of non-stop action, 171 suspected cartel members were arrested across Massachusetts, New Hampshire, and Connecticut. The operation stunned even seasoned agents because of how many arrests were made in such a short time. Officials said the numbers are staggering, but what is even more alarming is what those numbers reveal. For years, people thought of the cartel as a group that operated along the US-Mexico border, far from suburban streets and quiet New England towns. But this crackdown shows the opposite. The cartel is not hiding in distant deserts or remote safe houses. They are already here, moving inside American neighborhoods, setting up operations in cities that many people think of as safe and quiet. DEA agents have been warning for years that the crisis is no longer about border checkpoints alone. This week's events made that warning impossible to ignore. The arrests alone would be enough to make headlines, but the message from agents made it even more chilling. They said the Sinaloa Cartel is operating in plain sight, using local communities as staging grounds to distribute deadly drugs. This means ordinary towns where people live, shop, and send their kids to school have become silent battlegrounds in a much larger war. Imagine walking past a home, a warehouse, or even a small business in your town, and never realizing it was being used as a cartel hub. That is the reality in New England right now. The Sinaloa Cartel has quietly embedded itself in local areas, and until this week, few outside of law enforcement knew just how deep it went. The speed and scope of the crackdown underline how serious this situation has become. In just 7 days, federal agents and local law enforcement coordinated raids, investigations, and surveillance that led to the capture of suspects across 3 states. Each arrest was not just about one person, but about cutting a link in the cartel's larger chain. Officials stress that these were not random drug users being swept up. They were individuals who helped move shipments, arrange deals, and connect U.S. buyers to international suppliers. Taking them off the streets does not end the problem, but it does slow down the machinery that has been flooding America with fentanyl, meth, cocaine, and heroin. The DEA calls this a historic week for New England enforcement, but it also comes with a serious warning. The cartel is not shrinking. They are adapting, hiding in neighborhoods, and trying new methods to push their products into the hands of buyers. For every one of the 171 suspects arrested, there may be others waiting to take their place. That is why agents say the fight is far from over. Still, this week showed that the DEA is prepared to hit back hard, even in regions that most Americans never thought of as cartel territory. Every single arrest made during this operation pointed back to one group: the Sinaloa Cartel. This cartel is not just another drug gang. It is widely known as the largest, most violent, and most powerful drug trafficking organization in the world. From the deserts of Mexico to the suburbs of New England, their network stretches across continents. The DEA has called them the leading force behind the current fentanyl crisis. In New England, DEA Special Agent Gerard Forget gave them a name that cannot be ignored: Public Enemy Number 1. For families who have lost loved ones to overdoses, this label feels less like a warning and more like a confirmation of what they already know. The Sinaloa Cartel does not just ship drugs. They build entire pipelines that connect chemical suppliers in China, labs in Mexico, and local distributors in American towns. Their business is death, and their profit comes from poisoning communities. This week, Special Agent Forget and his team decided to hit those networks directly. The message was simple: the Sinaloa Cartel is not untouchable. By taking down 171 members and associates in a single week, the DEA wanted to prove that the cartel can be struck where it hurts. These arrests were not just numbers on paper. They represented dismantled cells, broken supply chains, and disrupted deals. Each suspect arrested was part of a bigger structure that feeds drugs into New England streets. Cutting off those pieces means fewer shipments, fewer sales, and fewer overdose funerals. What makes the Sinaloa Cartel so dangerous is its ability to operate like a global corporation. They use advanced communications, encrypted apps, social media, and international banking to stay ahead of law enforcement. They have tens of thousands of members and associates spread across more than 40 countries. Their empire stretches from Mexico into Europe, Africa, Asia, and every single U.S. state. That is why the DEA describes this fight not as a border issue, but as a national security threat. When Special Agent Forget stood in front of cameras this week, he reminded the public that the Sinaloa Cartel is not only knocking at America's door, it has already walked in. The operation in New England is proof of how deeply the cartel has taken root in unexpected places. Towns that many would consider quiet or safe, like Franklin, Hartford, and Lawrence, turned out to be hiding networks linked directly to cartel command. This is what makes the Sinaloa Cartel unique. They do not operate like a street gang visible on corners. They embed themselves into communities in ways that are hard to see until a raid uncovers what has been going on. For the DEA, calling them public enemy number one was not exaggeration. It was a reflection of reality. And this week's arrests made that reality visible to the entire region. The crackdown stretched across the region, exposing just how deeply the Sinaloa Cartel had embedded itself into New England. In Massachusetts, agents carried out raids that led to 49 arrests, many tied to the city of Lawrence. For years, law enforcement quietly suspected Lawrence was serving as a distribution hub, and this week confirmed it. Warehouses, stash houses, and quiet apartments in that city were used to store and move drugs before they were spread to smaller towns. New Hampshire saw 33 arrests, including a major bust in Franklin. There, investigators uncovered a hidden operation that had been supplying fentanyl pills to surrounding communities. What shocked many was not just the size of the seizure, but the fact that such a small and quiet town could be hiding a deadly network. The largest number of arrests came in Connecticut, where 64 suspects were taken into custody. In Hartford, agents disrupted an organized ring that had been moving thousands of counterfeit pills across state lines. Each of these numbers may sound like statistics, but together they show how wide the net of the cartel had spread in just this one corner of the country. The towns and cities involved are not places most Americans think of when they picture drug cartel activity. People expect cartel presence along the southern border in places like Texas or Arizona. They do not expect it in small New England towns or suburban neighborhoods. Yet this operation revealed that these quiet communities are exactly where the cartel chooses to hide. Lawrence, Franklin, and Hartford do not look like crime capitals. They look like everyday American towns. But behind closed doors, in rented properties and hidden rooms, cartel members were running operations tied directly back to Mexico. This is why DEA agents keep stressing that the fight is not just happening at the border. It is happening everywhere. And in New England, that truth just became impossible to deny. What makes the regional breakdown important is how it shows the scale of the problem in clear numbers. 49 in Massachusetts, 33 in New Hampshire, 64 in Connecticut. Taken alone, each number is large. Taken together, they add up to 171 arrests in just 1 week in just 3 states. That is not a local issue. That is a regional crisis. These arrests represent networks that had quietly built themselves into everyday life, blending in until federal agents exposed them. Each arrest represents not only someone facing charges, but also a hole in the cartel's ability to move drugs. Cutting these links matters because the Sinaloa Cartel depends on constant flow. Break enough of those flows, and the larger system begins to suffer. The lesson of this week is clear. The Sinaloa Cartel is not far away. It is here, and it is operating inside communities where families live and children grow up. The DEA's regional crackdown sent a message. The fight is not confined to deserts or border checkpoints. It is right here, in neighborhoods, schools, and small towns across America. And unless operations like this continue, the cartel will keep adapting, keep recruiting, and keep flooding streets with poison.